100 in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Access All Areas. We are into episode 2 after last month's Emma Stewart opener, and we have another cracker in store. We are welcoming a couple of guests who are joining us this week to get a totally different take on what happens down in the lakes in July. It's a huge welcome to Nikki Knappet and Morven Walsh, who both man one of the infamous checkpoints in the Lakelands at Chapel Stile. How are we doing, guys?
Hello,
Hi.
welcome.
Hello.
Thank you very much for joining us. We threw the net out pretty far and wide, and we've come up with a couple of crackers, hopefully.
It's lovely to be here. It's lovely to be here. So far away, and you know, it's going to be good fun. So yeah.
Yeah, we're going to find out all about it, and hopefully people viewing and listening will be able to learn a thing or two, both about what happens on the weekend and also in the preparation that I'm guessing goes on around about it as well. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be loads to take away, and we'll be picking your brains for the next hour or so. Is that about right, John? Welcome back, John, by the way.
Thank you.
That's as quiet as you've ever been, ever.
That'll be it, though. That'll be it.
That's it.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. You know what? I'm getting a wee bit excited myself, because for the event in July, you just feel it building up with the conversations we're having. And the people who are running this, for whether it's the first time or the 15th time, regardless, you will come across many special people that give up their time at all the different checkpoints, and we're really privileged. We've both had experiences at Chapel Stile, so we're really delighted to be here, and we hope that everybody that toes the start line gets themselves through Chapel Stile as well in July. So this won't be the last time you'll see these lovely ladies' faces, hopefully. But we're going to find out about what's all involved, aren't we, Stephen?
We are indeed, but we want to start by asking each of you just to describe the Lakeland 50, 100 in 3 words, simple opener, or maybe not. Nikki?
Who's going first?
So I'm going to say life-changing experience.
Life-changing experience. I tend to agree with that, actually. Okay, Morven?
I'm going to say the biggest adventure, because to me that's what it was, and that's what it still is.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, you've whetted the appetite somewhat there, and what we want to move on to next is just basically finding out about each of your sort of Lakeland story. How did you end up being on the checkpoint at Chapel Stile? It's not just something that, I've seen it in the small ads in the local newspaper or something. I'll sign up for that. What's the story?
Do you want to go, Morven, or shall I go, or what do you want to do?
You go.
Okay, so I heard about the Lakeland 50 a couple of years before I towed the line in 2017, which is the year that I met Morven, and I was training for Ironman triathlons, and I was, come from a mountaineering background. My family were into mountains, and I'd done a lot of running, a lot of sport in my youth, and a friend I was training with, and we were thinking about doing the MDS actually together, and he said, Nikki, there's this race that you need to do it. And I was like, oh no, can't be bothered. And he said, no, honestly, trust me. He said, they are your tribe. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is way before the ballots and the, when the entry process was just crazy, and I got a place, and I was, joined onto the forum, and Morven was asking some questions, and we were all chatting away and got to know her quite well. And I did an ultra about a month before as a, training run, and Morven messaged me really kindly straight after I'd finished that one, and it just blew me away. And then we started the line. We started on the line on the 2017 one, and Morven found me because I had a ridiculously large tent, and I couldn't put up on my own, despite the fact that everyone said you could have one small tent, and I could have driven my car in it anyway. I finished at, I did my own special race and I DNF'd at Ambleside, and Morven went on to complete it, and then I sustained an injury basically and really hurt myself. And I phoned up Mark and I said, look, I can't do the race. You know, I've got unfinished business, but I can't join it. And Mark was like, no, don't. And this was about February, so about this time in 2018, I think. And he said, no, don't make a message. Don't make any kind of like hard and fast decisions. And I was like, no, I think I've broken my leg actually. And he was like, oh right, that's okay. So, and then he said, look, you know, do you want to volunteer? And I was like, oh crikey, yeah, you know, I've never really volunteered at all. And he said, you know, it's a really great way to be involved in the race, even if you're not an athlete. And he said, look, you know, whatever checkpoint, because it's you can have whatever checkpoint you want. And I was like, oh really? I said, right, you know, I'd heard of the infamous Chapel Stile, and obviously never got there when I was racing. And I said, right, I'll have Chapel Stile. And the people who were managing it before me, who just were legends, absolute legends, with the whole sofa and fire and don't sit down and all the, you know, and it was quite a lot, you know, it's very big shoes to follow. And then that's how I started it. And here we are 5 years later, and I've sold my soul to Chapel Stile. So and it's opened so many doors for me, and it's just been life-changing, honestly. And I have found my tribe, and it's marvellous. It's absolutely lovely. So Morven, over to you.
So we know the lakes really well, and we've got great friends sort of in different areas, Keswick, Coniston, Ambleside, and I had started sort of doing different ultras and getting to know different places. And I did the UT55, is the one that Nikki was speaking about previously, and did the usual. You're sitting at night and you're scrolling through different races, and you go, oh, I quite fancy this one. And there was just something really different about the Lakeland. I liked the fact there was 100, there was a 50, there was different options, and I'm a bit different. Like, I don't actually recce my races, so part of it I knew, other parts didn't have a clue about, and I kind of looked at the map, kind of looked at the elevation and went, yeah, but it's the Lake District, I'll love it, it'll be great. And it'll be very like Scotland. And I entered, and I was really lucky, I got my place. And as Nikki was saying, that was 2017, and I had joined the forum, was getting bits of advice, talking to different people, and we actually booked like a whole week's holiday. My poor children, who are now very much big adults, get dragged about to have family holidays, which either had an ultra at the beginning or had an ultra recce or had something involved with friends. And yeah, registered, just loved it, just completely followed the whole hype with it, got really involved. Our lovely John Kinniston, who'll been a friend to many of us, John's videos, just everything that helped to, because I was actually quite, although I was really up for it and really wanted to do it, I was quite nervous about it. I didn't go into it blind, and I was quite hesitant in things like navigation and what have you. So there was a lot to learn, a lot to prep. But I got there, got through kit check, met Nikki, and just got on the bus and sat next to a complete stranger on the bus, lovely guy, and I ended up eating his breakfast in the B&B because he couldn't face it. So I was like, and he jokingly went, do you want anything? I can eat anything. And I was like, yeah, no problem. So like, I was still eating this poor guy's breakfast on the way to Salmaine. I had a fantastic experience. It has been one of the most difficult ultras I've ever ran. For me, different ups and different downs. Met a lovely girl, Catherine, within the first mile in Dalmain, and we get talking in the loo queue, and then she found me a mile in, get talking again, and she said, can we just run together? And I went, do you know what, why not? Yeah, I don't do races for a time. It was completely just start to finish. And Catherine and I had never met. We covered the whole race together, and I had a wonderful experience, and we laughed and we cried and everything, and very emotional coming into the finish when you get your hand held and you get taken in and you're suddenly announced to everybody who's already finished in the tent. And I did absolutely break down. I was just like, and I saw Bethany, my eldest daughter, David and Amy, and I was just like, oh. And of course Bethany's like, she's just like, oh Mom, you done this, what did you do, did you love it, and everything else. And from there on, Nikki and I stayed really good friends. And then Nikki said to me, look, can you come down and crew? I was like, oh, love crewing. So I said, yeah, because you can't run these events unless you've got the crew to support the runners. And that's how I ended up crewing. And I think crewing is just as much fun as running an event. And you're very privileged to be in that position. People, as Nikki was saying earlier, people will talk about all different things to you. They'll cry, everything will come out, and they just want hugged and looked after. But then when you go back and you see the finished, or you get back to the photos on the Sunday and you actually see them coming in, you're just like, oh my God, you did it. And I don't know, it is very, very special. And I think now crewing and all the team that we have, it's not just us, it's a huge team. You have so much fun, you really do. It's a fantastic experience. So that's how I got there.
And just putting it into context, just where Chapel Stile is, where it what mile it sits at in both the races, it's around about, we think, 10 miles for the end. That 10 miles for me is pretty vague. I think I've blanked it from my memory. But we reckon so about 40 miles or so into the 50 and 90 miles or so into the 105. Sorry, the 100. Whatever you want to call it. So so you're meeting people when they're either maybe at their lowest ebb, or sometimes they're already past that and they're on the surge to the finish line. Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
very much. Yeah, and I think people have you get different types of people who either come in and they're still quite upbeat and they're quite positive, or you will get people who have gone through the absolute mill, and they'll come into the tent and they'll kind of stand, but they don't know what to do, and you just kind of have to scoop them up. And it's a well-oiled machine. Like, we all grab a person and it's like, right, move on, get you started. And we're very privileged to be where we are to do that.
Yeah, and the 100. I mean, the other thing not to forget is that the 100 runners, by the time that the main bunch reaches, are running through their second night out in the hills and have just left their heart and soul and their soles of their feet normally on the course. So when the 100 runners come in, and you can see them wafting down, like we have different themes every year. So one of the themes that was really, really successful, that has kind of stuck a bit, is the fact that we did Chapel Stile International Airport. And so we actually set up a runway with solar lights, and people actually said, oh my God, seeing those lights and seeing us at the end of it, literally waving them in like air hostesses. And the 100 runners, you can see the headlights, weaving down the road. And we do a 1-to-1 with the 100 runners who are coming in and are clearly past the point of no return. And we have, a sleeping area, we have first class lounge, and getting them to, it's a yes, no response. You can't ask too many questions all at once, because the lights are on, there's no one home, and 9 times out of 10 they'll be talking to the penguins outside, and it is a real privilege to see them come in and to look after them and to turn them around and to see them like 20 minutes later or half an hour later or 15 minutes after they've had a cat nap, just completely rejuvenated. And Morven and I always say, you get to Chapel Stile, you will finish, we will get you there. Now go off and go and get your medal. And it's amazing to see them, because some people will take another 3 or 4 hours, if not longer, to get over the hill and past Tibbethwaite and go onto Jacob's Ladder and the steps and go over there and then go down to Coniston, which on exploded quads is no mean feat, even though it's the world's hardest park run. But and then some now, going to see them when they come over the line is just like, oh my God, I can't believe you've made it. You've come in like the Walking Dead, and you are just amazing. And it's a lovely thing to do. Yeah.
Even this wasn't scripted at all, but how did you feel when you got to Chapel Stile last summer?
I think I was reasonably happy to be there because the summer before that I didn't make Chapel Stile. So yeah, it was new to me. I remember that, and I'd heard that much about it from I'd met Morven the year before as well, and whatnot. So I was like, oh, this is what this is all about, Chapel Stile. But I remember just being entranced by the trays and trays of melon. Honestly, I was
We'll get to that.
Will we? Did
We'll
we get to that?
We'll get to that. We'll get
And
to
then
that.
and like there's custard creams and all things. Aye. But it was so I don't know what time of day that I would have been there. Probably later on in the Saturday, maybe like middle of Saturday evening or something. I can't remember. Round about. But there was a wee bit of a starting to feel like a wee bit of a war zone feel to it. In an organised way. Do you know, in a very organised way. But you could start to feel, oh, there's going to be bodies lying about here later.
Yeah.
Well, I got there later and there was bodies there, but I always remember feeling I got into sort of celebratory mood when I got to Chapel Stile, and I think what Nikki and Morven have said is when you get to us, you're going to finish. And I think I had been there before. In the first year I was there, I remember Morven being outside. I hope this was true, or I'm not a hallucination. Morven was wearing a big long white coat like a doctor.
We were angels. We
were angels, yeah.
Aye, so, and honestly, I was like, oh my God, and because it's in the middle of literally in the middle of nowhere, it felt like that to me. But it was
you think you're at the pearly gates.
But you know what? It was literally like an oasis, because I certainly wasn't aware of where I was, and then you just see these lights, and it just draws you in. It's absolutely brilliant. And speaking about the 100 runners, I walked with a couple of 100 runners towards Chapel Stile last year, and they were sleeping on their feet. They were absolutely spent. But I think it's amazing what can happen when somebody gets a wee bit of nutrition in them, whether that's food or if it's sugary tea, whatever, and you do see that transformation with people getting back up and out. And that's a wonderful place.
Yeah, and a lot of people as well by that stage, we have to be kind of slight. And I think the experience of us, the Morven and I and the other members of the team being, ultra runners or, runners and athletes or wannabe athletes in my case, we are really kind of like on it in relation. You can kind of spot when people are about to be a little bit unwell or, conk out and, make sure they've got salt and sugar and they've, just things like when was the last time you drank? When was the last time you went to the loo? When did you last take paracetamol? And just make sure that they're doing their self-care as well. Self-care is really important, and just help them. We just be there for them. And you've got to give of yourself. You have for that 24-hour period. So the checkpoint opens at about 10:30 on the Saturday morning, and we shut about 6:30 on the Sunday, and we get around 2,000 very tired ultra runners through in that period of time. And you have to give because you're there for their success, and it's just such a lovely thing to be part of because it's just incredible. And we are as shattered because we've just, you turn yourself inside out to support them, and you leave a little bit of your heart in Chapel Stile. I always say to people, if I disappear, go and try and find me in Great Langdale because I'll always be there. My heart is in Great Langdale. It's just a really, really special place.
I've got a wee side question that Nikki's just prompted in my brain. Do the volunteers We're using the term volunteers to describe the people. Yeah,
the team. Yeah, the team.
Do the team. Do the team at Chapel Stile. Is there a wee sort of rest rota, or is everybody up and at it for 24 hours?
Well, I try as the person who's trying to control everybody's, curb your enthusiasm. And I'm very aware that we can't have people working 24 hours solid. And so we start off on Friday morning at about 9 o'clock with getting all the logistics, the behind the scenes logistics. I have to say this, Mark and the HQ team are beyond phenomenal. If you think we have 2,000 runners and we have about 2,000 people supporting, or if every runner brings their mum and dad or their wife and a daughter or their family, we have thousands for that weekend, literally thousands. And the organisation is second to none. I'm not kidding. So we at Chapel Stile, we have to transport probably, I don't know, Morven, what do you reckon, about a ton of food, literally hundreds of loaves of bread, hundreds of watermelons, hundreds of tins of soup. We have got no electricity there, so we've got generators which are there, water, the marquee is up, and we have to go and set it up on the Friday. I try and get the team back in time on Friday to see the 100 runners off at 6 o'clock. And then I always say to people, try and have a really good night's sleep, because it's back on duty, early doors, 8, 9 o'clock on Saturday. And then we expect the first runners through about any time from 10:30 onwards. And then it's all hands to the deck. But I always say to people, you do need sleep. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You need to look after yourself, fix your own air mask first, and then look after everybody else. And so I've got a van, so I park my van around the back and I take some tents, and then some people disappear off or sleep in the back of the car, Morven. So we get a variety of people, and if it's a lovely evening, it's completely okay. When it's not a lovely evening, it can be, it is a bit of it's tough, it's tough for everybody, but it's fun. It's just brilliant. It is really, really good. Yeah. You
made a very good point there about the number of people and families and partners and let's call them the entourage that maybe descend on Coniston as well. And it's maybe just a wee thing to point out to people that it may be a big event for each, and it is. Morven called it the biggest adventure, and that's for each and every single runner. But it's good, and I think it's great you've mentioned it, to look at the bigger picture of what's happening here. And because again, Nikki, you used the term a tribe. And that's what it's all about. You're going to have people coming along for the first time. You're going to have one of the biggest weekends of your life.
Yeah, and it's international. It's global. Yeah. We get athletes coming from all over the world, and you meet people that who you just think, oh my God, that's Yeah. And they're just wandering around, and it's just amazing. And you meet people, and it opens doors. I mean, for me, it's opened doors to places that I never, like volunteering on other events, and just where I'm at, it gives you if you can do this, literally you can do anything, either as a volunteer or an athlete. It just gives you that kind of like sense of confidence. And and when I talk to people about it, they're just, that when you say, oh, you're doing 50 miles, it's like, what, in a week? It's like, no, that's in a 24-hour period, or and it's beyond people's comprehension what people actually achieve. I don't know who said it, but it's ordinary people doing absolutely extraordinary things. And it is fabulous watching the elite athletes come through, and it is also amazing to watch the people who are they train and everything. The people that get me are the back of packers, the people who are literally turning themselves, because they are on that course for sometimes twice as long as the podium finishers, and it is quite incredible to be part of their journey. When you look at them and you just think, you are doing something really superhuman. And until you've experienced that and you've been around people who do that, it's very difficult to explain that. But it is a tribe. It is a real tribe, and you get the same people. We're just starting to talk about it now. Everyone does the race in July. everyone like has October or August off and and then you've got a whole, can you get a place in September, and it starts buzzing, and and then we get the whole ballot banter going on in the forum, and then all goes quiet again, and then you do the recce's over winter, and then it's just about now everyone starts, oh crikey, Morven and I are just like, oh, do we need to chat? Do we need to catch up about who's on the team and things like that? And then later on in the year, people start getting really worried about, what's Spoongate, or what's Skippy Sticks Gate, or what's the cups, and we have various themes that go on until it May it starts getting really hyper, and you start saying to people, right, just switch off, disengage brain, trust the process, and also just be on that start line. The most important thing you can do is be on that start line, because you're not going to be in it unless you're on it, and it's just get to the start line, and and I always say to people, literally disengage brain, switch off, and just go with the flow, and also enjoy it. Mark says, don't forget to look up, and there's various places within the course. I mean, obviously I've not done the 100 where you're at night, and if it's a clear night and you switch your head torch off and you look at the stars, it is just, going over the Garburn Pass just will stay with me for the rest of my life. It was just, and what you turn round and you can see this little line of twinkling headlights, and it is just, it's photos don't do it justice. It's just the most incredible thing.
That's a very good point, and that's a very good point. Don't start crying yet, Nikki.
Nikki's welling up. She's got us going as well, I think.
I'll have a bit of a coffee. Sorry.
I remember that what you're saying there about looking up, and let's just say you've got plenty of opportunity to look up in the Picking Lakes. You go up quite a few times, but that bit about the night time and either the sunset or the sunrise, didn't worry about taking pictures of it, because there's photographers out there and you'll see all the lovely pictures. Just embrace the moment with your eyes and your mind, because I remember seeing all the lights coming down, and somebody said to me, I'll take a photograph of that. I went, no way I'm taking a photograph of that. First I'd have to find my phone, right? And my hands weren't working that as best as they could anyway. But yeah, just embrace the moment and enjoy it. Brilliant.
There is that first big climb out checkpoint 1 of the 50. Do you know the long climb?
It's that Hughesdale thing.
Hughesdale,
yeah. Don't mention the F word.
But I remember somebody saying to me, and I actually walked backwards up it for a wee bit. One, just to see the top was that far away. But the other reason was to look down the way back towards, and it is that now. That was daylight, and it was just that image will stick in my head.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point, Nikki. Thank you. See, on the logistics side of things, but so when you say you've got a team, how many people, man, are in that Chapel Stile crew? Let's call them gang.
10 or 12.
Yeah.
It's about a dozen.
Yeah.
I mean, just to name a few, there's obviously Jill, who's done it quite a lot. Emmy, Lee, Terry and Tanya joined us last year. Gavin is our generator man. Poor Gavin just does circuits of the tent, because you've constantly got the thrum of the Jenny, and suddenly it'll go quiet and you go, oh shit,
the lights will go off, It's like, right, there's someone with head torches on, because it's like,
you just suddenly realise that's not going on, and he's great. He's just like, oh right, back out again.
His wife Jane runs the 50 with her brother quite a lot of the time. Gavin doesn't, and they've done it as the whole family, like the two girls have done it, and Jill, so her partner, is a 100 legend, and he's just incredible. And we've all got links to, and like Tanya is a wonderful athlete, and it's and Imi and everybody, everyone's got their own stories to tell. It's we're a really good little squad.
It sounds it's like
one name missing for that list is Bethany. Bethany was the first person that we seen, Morven's daughter.
It's a shame because she gets dragged into the limelight a bit more. just because she's now got to understand this ultra family so well. And I'd asked her, obviously, last year, Nikki, do you want to come down and do it with me? And she's like, yeah, okay, what's the theme? What to dress up as? And I was like, I'll get to that, don't worry, we'll sort that out. Because there's always a theme, there's always a something. But I just leave her. She's just completely in her own, happy, and she does her own thing. And she took command of the watermelon with Emmy and Lee last year, and nobody could get near the watermelons, and they started off quite generous cuts, and then Bethany's like, oh no, wait a minute, this is getting a bit tight here when he comes down with the watermelon,
rationing it a bit.
There's also something, Amy, our youngest daughter, she's managed to avoid the whole running thing and is just gone, nah, it's okay, Mum. Like, Bethany, being the eldest, I don't know, she's probably seen more of it and she's been involved more as she got older, and she's obviously kind of stood back and thought, maybe it is a bit mad, maybe it's not. She's now doing sports psychology masters, so coming to Lakeland to help last year, it was her element. She is just, this is great. She's got to know so many people by being there as well and getting involved.
It is a whole family thing,
Yeah.
We have families we've got two or three generations who now run it. You've got the grandparents and then our age, and then their children who are now 16, 17, 18, or 18 to do it, and it is quite phenomenal. Some of the families, you just think that it's just incredible, really. It really incredible.
Watermelon's been mentioned a couple of times.
I know, that's what I was trying to move the conversation on to watermelon. That was where I was going with logistics, because I was thinking, how do you get all these hundreds of watermelons in the boot of a car, or whatever the transport method is, or pack horse, I don't know.
We've got the group chat, and the watermelon chat started last year, and somebody put in the group chat, I've got 2 from Tesco's, and I've found 3 in Sainsbury's, and I've got 2 from Glasgow, I'll come down. We all do a
so yeah,
swap.
Is there a watermelon procurement team?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
hopefully it's not going to be like cucumbers and tomatoes and peppers. That would be a disaster.
I know. Like, I think the year before we had one, the year when it was really hot, and everyone on the 100 runners set off, and it was like 36 degrees, and we ran out of oranges. So I just drove to the co-op in Coniston and just said, how many oranges have you got? And she said, well, there's 4 there. And I was like, no, how many oranges have you got? She said, well, I've just had a delivery. I was like, I'll have them all. I don't just have them all. Hundreds. And they all went. But that was the year when the weather broke. So the 100 runners set off in like 40 degrees nearly. And then by the time they got to us 2 nights later, it was like -3. It was literally -3 overnight. So we had some people in all sorts of trouble, because again, and if you don't, if this is your first time you're having a crack at it, we get literally 4 seasons in one day. Don't just think, oh, it's the end of July, I can put in all my skimpy. If you can, keep an eye on the weather, because it can get, especially in Chapel Stile, it can get very cold very quickly, and the temperature ranges are crazy. Really crazy.
On that, Stephen, the kit. I think I moaned about how take all this kit with me. I'm not going to do all that, but you actually do. You actually do, or you could.
You definitely do for the risk mitigation purposes. I totally get why you have to, and you're kind of cursing it at the time. You're standing in the queue at the registration, and and it's thoroughly checked, really thoroughly checked, more so than any other race I've ever. And that's not to say that the other races don't check thoroughly, but this is fine tooth comb stuff. Where's that? Which I can totally understand why. One thing on kit and Chapel Stile that sticks in my head was the fact that I wasn't getting to leave the checkpoint until I had my head torch on and showed you guys it was working. So I don't know how you managed to recover your retinas for that, because if you're getting a 400 lumens, you feel like
well, we kind of like walk up to people going, can you just
dip your headlights, please. but it is a point in question, and that might be of interest to people viewing. Is that, you know, for safety purposes? So it wasn't dark; it was just kind of getting the cusp of darkness, I think.
Yeah.
And
I think also just when we're sending
right.
people out back onto the course,
Uh-huh.
they're tired. 9 times out of 10, it's getting dusky, and we just always say, make sure you either got your head torch light on your head, or you got it handy and you've checked that it works, and or you're going out and you've got it on. And so many people be like, oh yeah, I forgot, because you know, it's like a little bubble.
Yeah.
Definitely. Anyway, back to watermelons, right?
Back to what? But what can people expect on the buffet table? The all-inclusive wristbands on, and I am hungry.
Well, we do. We kind of come in and we set it all up, and we kind of keep to the same positions, don't we? We've got the soup, the stew in the middle. We've got the drinks, the hot drinks, then the soup. It's just like a cafe that's going on, and then we've got the fruit table, the watermelon, the sort of bread, the jam pieces, and what have you. I had a bit of a laugh last year because we obviously take down whatever we need to have as well, just have a quick bite. And when I did my running, I love like pots of custard or rice pudding, and we did a man last year and I was helping him, and I think he was 100 runner, and just having a wee chat, how are you, get everything sorted, and I was like, is there anything you really need or you really want? And he went, oh, I want custard. And I thought, shit, I bought my custard, but now he's told me this and I can't keep my custard. And I went, what do you mean you need your custard? And he's like, I've got to go, you know, I'll get all these miles left. And I went, right, don't tell anyone. Just don't sit there, but don't tell anyone. And I had 2 pots of custard. So I went up and I gave him one. It was a wee handy size one. You'd thought I'd given this man gold. And he shoved it in his pocket and he went, that's me, I'm going to the finish. I was like, great. I've still got 1 pot, I'm all right. And literally 10 minutes later, one of the other crew came up and they went, have you got custard? Somebody's seen you. And I'm like, no, I've only got 1 more pot. So like another runner got my pot. And I was like, you know what? That's what you need. It's these little things, isn't it? So
it's like you don't want to start that. Don't start the rumour.
We did laugh last year, and we said maybe we should say to Mark, because that with the sponge pudding would be good. You know,
it's a bit of jelly and a tin of fruit cocktail, and it's like Christmas trifle. Brilliant. No, it's certainly. You know, I tried not to hang about for too long, and I'm sure that little bit of whether people need a cuddle or a kick up the butt to get them out of the checkpoint, it will differ for everybody. John, what was your experience when you? I bet you were serenading them all. I can just imagine you.
Oh, aye. Oh, you know what? You've opened the door. Sit back, get yourself a cup of tea, and I'll tell you a story.
Okay,
right?
I'll be back in 5 minutes.
No, Morven mentioned the word cafe there, and depending on your take on life at that moment, I hope you get the same as me. It's the best cafe in the world.
Oh,
honestly.
We definitely give the best cups of tea. We get that all the time. This is the best cup of tea anybody has ever had in their life. It's just like, I've just put 4 sugars in it. It's fine.
And you know what? That, Nikki, is exactly what I wanted. Last year, I've developed this thing that sugary tea is the thing that works for me. It gets me going. It gets me through. It gets me out of Chapel Stile. But no, I think I'm not a fan of watermelon. Since last year, I've tried watermelon for the first time in my life on holiday. It's always been a thing that's put me off. But Stephen waxed so lyrical about the watermelon at Chapel Stile that I thought I've got to try this at least once in my life. So I have tried it. It was all right. It's not. I think it's the texture thing I'm not quite a fan of, but it was going like a fair. People were coming in, and what Stephen was saying is it just gives you that wee lift. It's a change in taste, and it's a change in maybe temperature in your mouth. It's almost like just that, maybe like brushing your teeth or something. It's just that freshness it gives you.
Yeah.
So I'm selling the watermelon thing, even though I'm not personally a fan.
And I think also by the time people get to us, you know, they're 90 miles in or, you know, 40 miles in, and they've been out on the course maybe, 30 odd hours or 24 hours nearly, and there's only so much flat Coke and crisps and sweets that you can eat, or if they've been having powdered electrolytes or something like that, we all know that you get to the point where you just think, I cannot drink anymore, Cisco or whatever it is. And world smelling. And I think that's also why our food, everyone always remembers us, because we've got savory soup, we do stew and salty stuff, and it's warm bread and butter kind of stuff. And again, going on to Tibberthwaite, that each checkpoint is famous for their menus, and it doesn't really change that much. And Tibberthwaite, I think they do cheese toasties, do they, on the fire?
They do, yeah.
Yeah. And it's everyone by that stage is either ready to eat something proper, or they're ready to eat a bit of salty savouriness. And
we shout out to Tilberthwaite as well for the chocolate digestives, but they had caramel in them, didn't they, Stephen?
They did. They were premium.
Yeah.
Premium. I don't know if they'd been also into the Copy in Coniston, I'm not sure, but they were good. And what else sticks in my head about that sort of menu of typical things available at each checkpoint being quite unique is at Kentmere, and they've got smoothies.
Yes.
And at that point in time, that was the best thing. But at the point in time that you hit Chapel Stile, I don't think it would be. It would be like, nah, I just want to get this. I want to get to the finish line. So it's weird how the right thing is at the right place. Yes. It's not weird at all. It's planned.
I also think the hot stuff, the stew or the soup, works, because certainly when I get there, and I'm just going to come on, it's a perfect segue to the next question, actually. When I get there, I'm needing something hot inside me because it's getting cool outside, and it's just that. And that leads us into, when is your busy time? You've mentioned the time that you're open, but is there a busy time? Rush hour?
Peak time.
That's it.
Time. Yeah, I mean, what you think, Nikki? But I think probably the sort of later into the evening, and then through those sort of midnight, early hours, maybe to like 3 in the morning, you've probably got there were periods where you can literally come out, and it's a very strange feeling as well from a volunteer point of view, but you come out in the darkness and you stand next to the fire pit, we keep an eye on that, and then you look down in the pitch blackness to the runway lights, and all you see is hundreds and hundreds of head torches, and you run back in and you go, get ready!
They're coming!
You'll have like bursts, and then it'll quieten down, and then there'll be a burst again of it, but you do have a real good steady sort of that period, sort of maybe 9 to 3 in the morning, where it's just constant.
So we get the mid pack, hundreds, and the mid pack of the 50s, so the fast 50s, and they start coming in together. And I'd say between about 11 at night till 3 in the morning is just non-stop, and we can have hundreds of people in that marquee, literally hundreds, with people asleep, people not feeling very well, people eating, people crying, just sheltering from the weather. It can be really, really busy.
Somebody's parked a bus and just opened the buses, and it's like, it'll die a little bit quieter, and then there is hundreds coming, and they're all coming now, and it's everybody just runs into station mode again and gets everybody sorted. But it's quite a phenomenal thing to see when you see all these head torches coming towards you. And you don't know how people will be. You don't know how they're all going to feel. So
I've just had a recollection of running towards Chapel Stile, and do you run past like a campsite or something?
Yeah, Blaze Brown.
Right, okay. And there's normal people there.
Yeah.
Right. Looking at you as if to say, what in the hell are you doing over there on that path? And I kind of acknowledged them and gave them a wee nod. But they're just sort of standing, staring.
What is going on?
Some of them are kind of giving you a wee bit of applause, but I remember, I think it was like maybe scout groups or something like that, I felt were there, and they were just like, there was a bunch of young uns, and they were egging you on, and that was nice. They weren't being nasty at all, like I would have been when I was that age.
it's amazing, really. And then just running in, and you can see them coming from right down the end of the campsite road, and when you just turn in and come off the farmyard where the swing is under the tree, you can see people, especially in the dark. You can see them twinkling, and you're like, right, okay, incoming.
I think I actually took a wrong turning last year. I had to go back on myself to get to Chapel Stile, and I must have been having a moment, and then I got back in.
Very funny stories. We had two guys, was it last year, Morven, or the year before, when they were convinced that the paths had moved in Chapel Stile, absolutely convinced, and we were like, no, and the road book was wrong. They were a little bit fatigued, and they were like, literally, they came in at like, you can come in, but you got to go straight out. You cannot stop. They were right on the cutoff, little bit tired, and they were adamant, absolutely adamant. We get all sorts, it's like the paths moved. Somebody's rewritten the road book. When was the last time you ate anything? That's not the point. It's like, okay.
Here's some watermelon.
Yeah. And take it outside. Yeah.
When I was there last year, it was quite full. I've no idea the time, but it was quite busy. There wasn't a lot of, although it's a big space, as you say, there's hundreds of runners maybe arriving literally one up in the back of each other all the time. Do you ever need to encourage people to leave to create a bit of space? Or do some people just think, I'll just sit here for an hour and a half?
John, are you speaking about yourself?
It was good stew.
Is this a confession?
There was a man last year who came in and I'd helped him, but he sat at the first chair coming in the tent, and I got him tea and some soup and what have you. And then about 10 minutes later, I looked again and he'd moved about 4 seats up. And I was like, are you okay? And he went, yeah, okay. So I checked somebody else, and literally he moved, and I ended up saying to him, you're just getting closer to the door because you do have to go. And he went, okay, I'm going. I think he's gone about 6 seats to get to the tent. So you have to encourage a wee bit, don't you, Nikki?
Yeah. And then, but we do have people that come in, especially 100 runners on the second night, who just say, I need to have a sleep. So we have got beds and, sofas with rugs and pillows and everything. So people they'll be out for like 10 minutes, completely out, but then they get up and they're like resurrected. It's just incredible. And then you see them wandering off into the night with the head torches on. And but yeah, we do get some people. It's like, right, come on, you're getting cold now, get off,
Well, last year, because you spoke about 2 years ago when it was that warm year, then cold during the night. Last year, it was a bit rainy, if I remember correctly. And I think that was what was deterring me going back out. I was like, oh no, here we go. Because the paths were like streams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the paths are pretty shitty anyway, right? But when you put a stream on it, and it's just
Don't
like...
tell the National Trust.
I'm telling them. Sorry, man.
Well, we had 1 year. I think it was the year before Morven joined the team, and it was my first year, I think, as checkpoint manager. And the weather was so bad that we ended up tying the marquee to 2 cars. The toilets blew away. It was carnage, absolute carnage. But we still did it. We still looked after all our lovely athletes and got everybody up and through, and everybody, but the weather can be you just have got no idea what the weather gods are going to throw at you.
Well, I think Stephen and I have experienced both, because 2 years ago it was that hot year and it was absolutely baking.
Yeah.
And then last year it was that, I'm going to use the word dreich, Scottish word for dreich. It was just horrible rainy stuff. And then later on, the further on, it got quite heavy rain, and as Stephen says, when you left Chapel Stile, it was literally a river of mud.
Yeah.
It felt like that.
Yeah.
But there was a brilliant moment in there. I was going up this river of mud, cursing with all my Scottish strength that I had.
No.
And a man said to me, "Are you John from that podcast?" Because I was ranting about everything. So I made a pal. I made a pal. Brilliant.
In fact, he had a Mohican that was pretty distinct, and he'd been putting on every social media channel going.
I forgot about the Mohican. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. There you go. But no, as a wonderful, the whole course is wonderful. But I think we're speaking about Chapel Stile specifically just now. But what would you say to people running Lakeland 50 or 100 for the first time? What advice would you give them?
Go on, Morven.
I don't overthink it. Honestly, to get to the start line, you've done epic shit to get to the start line. You've signed up, you've looked into it, you've wanted to do it, you've got your place. Just enjoy it. For me, I talked to everybody, as you know, and every race in the Lakeland I went into, just completely open-minded, open-hearted, talk to everybody, stop, take it in. You know, as Mark, what we were saying earlier, stop and look around you, look behind you, look how far you've come. It's an amazing adventure. And I think as well, for everybody who runs this, who's part of it, you're very lucky to be in that position. You know, to me, it's like your bit of escapism. It's your bubble world, and it's like being 10 years old and going out to play, but just not coming home to see. You know, you're just staying out a bit longer with your mates. And to me, that the memories will stay with you. Wear your kit, practice with your kit, and I know this is a hot topic, but wear comfy undies, because if you don't, my God, it comes back to bite you. And that goes for men and ladies. So comfy undies, and enjoy it. Honestly, just break it down as well. Don't have the bigger number in your head. Just break it down. The next checkpoint, the next marshal, the next person that you talk to, sing songs, whatever. But yeah, honestly, enjoy the escape. You're very lucky.
Yeah. And embrace it. You know, it's if you can do. I mean, each checkpoint is on this particular event is about, I don't know, what do you reckon, Morven, about 10 to 12 kilometres?
Yeah, I think it roughly works out 7-8 miles apart. So
yeah,
you're
so
pretty well.
You just, if you can run 7 or 8 miles, you can do, if you can walk 7 or 8 miles in a certain period of time, you know, and then you've just got a buffet, and then you walk 7 or 8 miles and you've got another buffet, and it's just an eating competition. So also practice your eating, practice your drinking, you know, practice setting. I'm absolutely rubbish at doing that. So I've on my Garmin, or other map watches are available, Sunto, whatever, you know, Tesco's, don't know. Anyway, mine beeped every 40 minutes to remind me to have, you know, either a mouthful of whatever I wanted. And I discovered that ham and crisp sandwiches are a food group. And, you know, that's what works for me. And just practice, because you need to take on board the fuel to a certain degree, but everybody's different, you know, and just, you know, enjoy it. It's, you know, we've been through, when we think about what we have all been through over the last 3 or 4 years of our lives, you know, with COVID and the global pandemic, and we've had people within the Lakeland family who, you know, we've had birth, deaths and marriages, and families that have been bereaved, and we've all come together, and we do come together. And Mark is magnificent at pulling all that emotion through, you know, a Nessun Dorma, which goes on at the, you know, the start of the 100. I defy anybody to sit there and not have the hairs on the back of the neck. I mean, even just saying it now, it's like, whoa, it's really, really special. And again, you know, if you've got through the entry process and you've got through the ballot and you're there, you know, disengage your brain, get on that start line, switch off, and just have the most amazing adventure of your life. And we'll look after you, and we will look after you, and we want you to finish, and you will finish. If you get to Chapel Stile, you will finish.
The Chapel Stile catapult.
Yeah,
that's a good one. I think I'll get some IP rights on that one, but yeah.
Yeah, no worries. That's yours. That's yours.
Yeah. And I think also, just moving on from, you know, that kind of like, you know, heavy stuff and everything, you know, when you get to Tibberthwaite, we've got Jacob's Ladder, and, you know, in running and doing that in memory of a family whose little boy was very poorly and unfortunately passed away. And we all have £1 to go up the steps, and we raise money for, you know, the treatment that everybody, you know, these children need. And it is really very moving. And everybody's got their stories, you know, of why they're doing it, what motivates you. And I think half the time we're therapists, really, bearing a cup of tea, and people tell you all sorts of things, and very, very privileged to be part of that and to be, you know, helping people and getting on with it. It's just amazing.
Thank you for mentioning Jacob's Ladder. This, for some people listening in, for some viewers, we've got viewers with this, but for people watching or listening in, this may be the first time you've heard about Jacob's Ladder. It won't be the last. You'll be reminded to bring a quid. You can bring more than a quid if you want.
Some people, £5 notes roll up smaller than a £1 coin.
There you go.
And tenors.
But it's a great chance to do some good. The whole race does good. We've not even spoke about. I don't know if we're going to speak about it tonight, but the amount of work that the Lakeland 50 team do for the local communities, or not just local communities, all over the place, charities.
So every
on you go, Nikki.
Yeah, every checkpoint has we have some money that we raise as part and parcel of, you know, the event, and we are allowed to nominate a charity that is close to our hearts. For whatever reason, it could be, you know, a sporting team, or it could be anything, you know, that we, you know, mountain rescue, or you know, treatment for some, you know, illness or disease or affliction. And we give back, you know, and Mark's done some amazing things with, you know, the children's charities that he's supported as well. And it is, you know, supporting the local community in Coniston, because it is, you know, it is a mammoth event, and we're all very grateful to, you know, everybody that helps, and we couldn't do it without everybody, you know, digging in, and all the volunteers. I mean, you know, there's thousands of runners, but there are hundreds, literally hundreds of volunteers, and headquarters is just quite incredible, really. And you know, just getting the logistics there and putting everything up, and, you know, and we all have fun, but I think also it's making sure the volunteers have a valuable experience as well, and enjoy it and make the most of it, and hopefully come back and have a crack, because you just never know. You just never know until you try. You've got to try. You can't not engage with it, and you cannot join in the Lakeland 100 and not be affected in some way. I defy it. It's just incredible.
Oh, I agree. On that, Nikki, if there's people who are maybe viewing or listening, and for some reason or another they're not able to do it this year, or they're maybe not able to do it at all, but I'm assuming, sorry if you don't know the answer to this, but be able to reach out and get in touch with Mark some way through the multitude of channels of doing so, and you know, ask about volunteering opportunities, I'm assuming.
I think there's a volunteering page on the website, Morven.
Okay.
Do you think there is?
It's a bit like you kind of register, you apply to volunteer and sort of put yourself forward, and I think there should be details on the website for the 150, so yeah, people will be able to find out about it and contact direct.
Yeah, I think, and it does fill up, so it's a bit like the 50, you know, kind of try, and if you think of it, and again, you know, I mean, like Morven and I, well, I don't know, I can't speak for Morven, but for me, the Lakeland 50 now rules my year, you know, and it, you know, it's like your new diary. It becomes part of, you know, the whole process of the year. It's like, right, you've got your entry in September, you do your recce's till April, and then you start you carry on your training proper, and then it all starts ramping up on the forums in about May, June, and then bam, before you know it, it's July, and oh my god, it's next weekend kind of thing. And then we're all camping, and the camping people, you must camp on with, if you can get onto the main campsite. It's just fantastic, the atmosphere, and people, you know, listening to people coming in all night long. Bring your earplugs, obviously, but you know, people say, oh, well, I'm not camping, but that's part and parcel of the whole weekend. It is a Lakeland festival. You know, last year was just amazing with all the different things that were going on, and it's just, you know, even the 1 mile run for the kids, it's just fantastic. It really is.
Can I just, on the volunteers thing there, for every runner that's going through, regardless if you're doing the 50 or the 100, if you see a volunteer if you approach them, smile and say thank you. Right? It's really, really important, because people, as you've listened to tonight, or whenever you're listening to this, they're giving up their whole weekend. Much more than that, they're giving up a good part of their life to be there and help you. So be a nice person. Even if you're grumpy, put a smile on your face and say thank you.
Yeah, even if you're twining.
Yes.
Twining.
Yeah, it's a good Cumbrian word. We heard.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was something else I was going to say about the camp. The campsite is something really, really special, and it's a festival. I remember saying to Stephen, it's like Glastonbury, but it's about running. You know, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal.
The
And I think
toilets are
also
better.
so okay, carry on.
No, I was just saying it's like Glastonbury, only the toilets are better.
Yeah, there are toilets, and people use them. Yeah.
Okay, listen, the Glastonbury is actually another segue to where we're going to take this next.
So it is, John. Like it was
Isn't it?
planned.
Almost. Nikki, what song sums up the Lakeland experience for you? Pick a track.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna say Placebo, running up that hill, the Kate Bush. I love Kate Bush and Kate Bush's version, but the Placebo version of it is just, that's pretty special for me. Yeah.
Brilliant. Very apt. And I'm sure some people are punching the air right now because of that nomination.
Oh,
Marvin.
I'm gonna have two. Actually.
She's going
Sorry,
for two.
sorry. So the other
Yeah,
one
more
I
well.
have is Dig Down by Muse, and that can keep me going for hours on repeat, literally
those.
hours.
I think we're getting a wee insight into Nikki's record collection, or CD collection, or download collection, whatever it is the young guys do these days. Okay.
Spotify playlist, come on.
Yeah, that's it. Morven, what's your song?
Well, my song, and probably because in the wee small hours I've stood outside the tent watching the lights and everything in the darkness. For me, it's the Waterboys, The Whole of the Moon, and that's just it's one of my favourite songs. But I just find it quite an emotional song, and the whole reason of why people are there and doing what they're doing. And sometimes if you just get a minute just to stand quietly, take the whole picture in, it's quite emotional. So I like that song for that.
Did you have a story there about Whoa, Black Betty, Bam-a-lamb?
Yeah, well, oh yeah, because Catherine, who the lovely lady who I made friends with and ran that whole race with, and then sadly who's no longer with us, and that's another emotional aspect of this race. We were coming down. We had about 2 miles to go, and we were coming into Coniston. Like everybody, we'd been through all the highs and lows, and for some reason, Catherine started singing this song, and we just got full whack into this song at the top of our voices in the dark. I think we came in, I don't know, between 2, 3 in the morning or something, pitch black. But on the forum afterwards, there was talk of this on the chat, and this one guy went, "It was you two." Seemingly he'd been thrown up his guts behind a car before he got to the tent, and he thought he was hallucinating really badly because all he could hear was these 2 girls singing at the top of their voices, off key and everything. Much hilarity, and the guy's trying to be sick. And he was just like, "What is going on to my life? What has happened to me right now?" But he actually said afterwards, he went, I just don't know where this was coming from. So yeah, we were having a sing song coming into the finish line. So yeah.
Brilliant. 2 brilliant. 4 brilliant tunes, and The Whole of the Moon. The Whole of the Moon is one of my favourite tunes. I got actually quite emotional as soon as you started saying the title. I love that song, and it's very appropriate for Chapel Stile as well.
Yeah.
As they all are. And Black Betty by Ram Jam took me right back to my primary school discos. There you go. I'm old enough to remember that.
Completely not in tune, off key, and probably not the right words, but yeah. But yeah, that actually got us to running down into the finish line. It was just very emotional.
You mentioned about the finish, Stephen. You
Yeah.
you came and seen me at my finish last year. How did your finish feel?
But my finish last year,
Mm.
it was great, like what Morven described, or maybe it was Nikki, I can't remember already, but about just getting paraded in and announced. I'd missed out on doing that year before, so it felt extra special, that unfinished business that you spoke about, Nikki, to get it. And it was kind of a bit of a sensory shock though, isn't it? Because you've just come down off of that traumatic experience coming over from Tibberthwaite. Did I get that right?
Tibberthwaite.
Ish.
Which my head torch packed in, and I remember coming over there, and it was teeming down a rain, and my head torch packed in. I'm like, oh, I've got my spare one, and it was of course right at the most awkward spot in my race pack. My jacket and everything was on. I took it off, and I hadn't realised that there's like a quarry or something to your right. It's like disappears down, and I actually. I don't think I was anywhere in it, but I felt I was about to fall down it, do you know, in that sort of, and then you come into Coniston and you're paraded into this, what can only be described as at the end of a really good function night, do you know, with music playing and everybody's a bit boozy who are finished and high on life, and you're like, and it's roasting hot, it's roasting warm in there compared to what you've come out of. So awesome, John, to sum it up. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, I totally get that, and hopefully
it's a special moment.
It is, and I think the people who have done it before and they're coming back for, well, there'll be a whole host of reasons why they're coming back. You know, for each, some people may have unfinished business that they want to put right, a wee itch that they're wanting to scratch. But for people coming for the first time, they'll be hopefully watching or listening to this and getting themselves right up to Hydo, because it's no long to July now, you know. But this is a good scene setter, I think, given we've spoken with Emma Stewart, the ladies winner from last year. But as I said before we started recording this, I was desperate to just consume information about Lakeland 50. That's the one that I've done. I've not done the 100 yet, Mark. But but
never say never.
It is an awesome event, and I think both yourself, Morven, and Nikki have done a fantastic job of describing what it is. You both do a fantastic job actually at the event. Words probably can't describe that. So thank you both very much for what you do and for doing it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Honestly, it's got to be said as well, all checkpoints, you are part of a fantastic team of people, and you can't do it without everybody. And it's unsaid. Everybody just walks in and picks up a role to do, and you don't have to go, you're doing this or you're doing that. We all just filter through, and it's excellent teamwork. It really is. Friends for life.
Well, to end it up, I'm leaving a 5 out of 5 review on TripAdvisor for Chapel Stile. In fact, for them all, for all the checkpoints, and because it's absolutely, you know, as a runner and a participant in it, you know yourselves, having done ultras yourself, just how essential it is to help fuel you, to help inspire you and motivate you to the finish line. So no, thank you for doing what you do, and and I can't wait to see what the theme's going to be this year. So tight-lipped on that one, but all will be revealed.
You'll have to wait and see.
I'm going to take a guess or two. off air.
Are you?
I think like Star Trek or something like that. Star Trek. Okay, some space theme.
Couldn't possibly say.
There you go. Know that I'm putting ideas for 2030 in your head.
Yeah.
What was that?
It's great fun.
It is.
Well, we were Star Wars last year, and
there you go. But I'm saying Star Trek. Can beam me up, Scotty. Must have it in the back of my head some point.
Right. Brilliant. We better wrap
love
this
it.
up. We're
Yeah.
not wanting it to be too long, and we will be coming back at you sometime in April with another Access All Areas, won't we, Stephen?
We sure will. We've got a few more up our sleeve as we look to build up the anticipation ahead of July. You'll be starting to think about your kit and all that kind of jazz. What tent? You're going to hate to borrow somebody's tent. Borrow Nikki's. You can drive a car into it. There you go.
I think that's been trashed. I've got 2 big lads, and I think that's been taken off to Cornwall and it's been trashed. So
Well used. No, thank you very much, guys. That's been absolutely brilliant.
You're absolutely welcome. You're absolutely welcome. And just, if anybody is a newbie and they've got any questions, head over to the forum, and you're bound to get a bit of banter if you ask anything. But there's a lot of people. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the forum, and we've all been there. So
Yeah. There's no silly questions.
Ask below. Ask below. We can sort of say that because it's on that. That's what they're doing. No, down that way. Sorry, I should have went sort of down to the side a bit.
Over there.
Yeah, ask below.
Well,
I'm
the link
signing off now.
Cool.
Oh no.
Right. Thank you very much, ladies. Thank you.
Thank
Brilliant.
Thank you to both. Thank you.